When you think of China, many things come to mind, including its long history and unique historical architecture. However, for me, it was also the place I called home when I was a child. Many things have changed in the past 2 decades, but a taste of the traditional food from my hometown never fails to bring back warm memories. Come with me to the city of Lanzhou, situated in the heart of China, with an authentic recipe for Chuan, or lamb kebabs. Growing up, we didn't always have the means to buy meat, so it was a bit of a special treat for us to visit the lively outdoor markets in the evenings. You would be able to hear the market even before you saw it. Laughter, voices, the hiss of hot oil, the clink of dishes. Spices perfumed the cold air, promising all kinds of succulent sweet and savory snacks. Bright blooms of yellow flames would occasionally interrupt the night as fat from the mutton kebabs dripped into grills. All along the narrow street, patrons feasted on wooden benches. Children sat in the laps of their parents, faces awash in the glow of fire as they watched the cooks throw handfuls of spices over sizzling meat. Traditionally, Chuan were made with fatty cuts of adult sheep meat, also called mutton, but it can be substituted with leaner cuts of lamb, which will yield similar flavors but a more tender texture and milder taste. The best part of this dish is its versatility and ease of cooking. It's all about the spices, and there are only 3. If you don't have a grill, you can even make it in an oven. If you're interested in learning more about my experiences with this dish or discovering other stories from my life, check out my brand new blog listed in the description below. Otherwise, keep watching to see how you can bring a little taste of my hometown from my kitchen to yours. Whether you plan to cook this in the oven or on a grill, I highly recommend using skewers. To keep the wooden skewers from catching on fire on a grill, the first step is to soak them in water. Here are the spices you will need: salt, cumin, and ground pepper. I'm using a pepper from an Asian market, but you can also use cayenne pepper if that is all you have available on hand. The ground pepper I use in this recipe is not spicy, so I added 2 tablespoons. Combine the ground pepper with 1 tablespoon of sea salt or Himalayan pink salt. If you're using table salt, start at 1.5 teaspoons and add more later if needed. Finally, you will need 2 tablespoons of ground cumin. Next, it's time to prepare the lamb. This recipe can accommodate a little more than 1 pound of meat. I used the lamb shoulder and decided to keep the cuts of fat as is typical in the street foods in China. However, feel free to remove the silver skin and fat if you prefer a more tender and healthier treat. Traditionally, the meat for kebabs are very small, a little larger than nickel size. This is done so that more spices could coat the meat, providing a more intense flavor. It will also cook quickly over the fire and has the added benefit of cutting down costs on the part of the vendor. However, when you are cooking at home, you can vary the sizes. For well-done meat and a little bit more charring, slice the meat thin and small. If you like your lamb more tender, then cut the meat into larger chunks. I missed a step in the video here and added it later, but before pouring spices on top, add a dollop of oil to help the spices spread. Then simply mix everything together. You can also choose to set a quarter of the spices aside to toss onto the kebabs as they're cooking. Now remove the skewers from water, and while it's still wet, begin threading the skewers through the lamb. If you're making this in the oven, cook for 15 to 20 minutes, checking every 5 minutes for desired doneness. At the end, switch the oven to broil for 1 to 2 minutes, remove, and serve. Heat the grill on high and cook the meat over direct heat for 5 to 7 minutes. Flip the kebabs halfway through and feel free to toss on some additional spices as they cook. And there we have it, from the streets of Lanzhou, China, to your kitchen. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventure Cooking, and please subscribe and stay tuned for more to come.